guys, welcome or welcome back to day one of Vlogmas. And if you're here, I'm going to be telling you all about my favorite books that I read in 2024 and some books that I still thought about that I read in 2023 that carried into 2024. And we're going to cover everything from historical fiction to fantasy to romance. So if that seems like it's up your alley, I hope you guys stick around because these are some of my favorite books. And these are not necessarily 5 stars or 6-star reads, but these are just the books that really have stuck out to me, whether it was because of the plot, the characters, or the storylines. And I just thought I'd share my love and my appreciation for these books and these authors who took the time to write these books that I have deeply fallen in love with. So let's get right. So this first book I'm talking about really holds a really dear spot in my heart because not only is it a historical fiction, it is a biography fiction. It's based off a true story, but this is The Only Woman in the Room by Marie Benedict. This followed the story of Hetty, who is in a relationship with her husband, who is part of the Nazi regime, and basically he is dealing with the Nazi party and she's in a marriage with the Austrian leader, and they're kind of doing business together, and she decides this is not what I'm standing for. So she goes behind her back and creates one of the most communication devices that is used during the war, and we're learning about her invention and how she's getting over this marriage. And yeah, this is truly about being the only woman in the room because she is basically being in a room by being the wife of said person. And oh my god, y'all, this story I gave 5 stars. This is a 6-star read in my heart. If anybody ever asks me what book would I ever recommend, it's always going to be The Only Woman in the Room by Marie Benedict. The writing was just powerful. It just, the fact that this is based off a true person just makes it even more wonderful. The pacing was good. The writing was great. The setting was good. I just thought Marie Benedict did a really great job of telling the story and making you just be sucked in about being the only woman in the room. And not only that, it just made me feel so empowered as a woman after finishing this book. So I highly recommend, if you're looking for a good historical fiction that is based off a true person, I think this would definitely be a good way of starting a historical fiction or jumping into this genre. I think this is a great introduction into that type of writing. This next author has a really sweet spot in my heart. I've been working my way through her catalog, but this is my very first book I ever wrote by this author. And I read this my senior year of college, so this is back in, this is spring of 2023. And I remember vividly staying up in my dorm to 3 a.m. reading this book, even though I had to be to work at 8 a.m. because it was that powerful. So if you're anybody who loves the stories that talk about R. Kelly, P. Diddy, and things of that nature, then you definitely need to read Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, because in this we're following the story of this girl, of Chanta Jones, and this R&B singer named Corey Fields. And basically she ends up to go live with Corey. Her goal in Chanta's life is to become an R&B singer and to basically the world to know her name. She wants to be an icon, a legend, and so she decides to do that with Corey Fields. But little did she know there's a lot more to Corey than the public eye knows, and that he is an abuser and he's a groomer. So we're following the story of a groomer of Chanta Jones and Corey Fields. And yeah, it's crazy, y'all. This story is so crazy. I remember crying. I was just in awe with this story. I just felt so bad for Enchanta, and the fact that I feel like as a black author and as a black woman, I felt like I could really relate to her story and her struggle, because I feel like this story is very prevalent and how things really happen within the black communities, and I could really see the juxtaposition between the fiction and reality. So yeah, if you're looking for a really good, powerful, captivating story about black musicians and the power struggle and grooming between adults and young women in the entertainment industry, I think Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson would definitely be the novel. This next book is also a debut author who's also a black author that came out, and I believe this book came out in August, that has been on the top of my list. This author just randomly ended up coming across my TikTok For You page, and then I kept up with this novel that she was releasing. So let's talk about it. This is This Ravenous Fate by Miss Haley Dennings. This is a vampire fantasy romance and a sapphic. We're following the story of Eloise and Layla in 1926 New York, and basically Layla and Eloise have to work together. Layla is the vampire, Eloise is a human, and they used to grow up and they used to be best friends. Now they have to work together because now there's vampires who are going rogue in the city, and they have to figure out who's behind all this destruction that is happening. And let me tell you, I gave this book 5 stars. The pacing and the writing of this book was so easy. I also got an art copy of this via NetGalley. But when I tell you I fell in love with this, I was immediately enthralled and enriched by what I was reading. It was such an original story. The pacing, the plot, everything was fantastic from beginning to end. And when the book ended, I was like, I immediately need the second book now. I believe this book is going to be a duology, so I'm so excited to see how the rest of the story is going to go. But if you're looking for a vampire sapphic romance written by a black woman that gives you good romanticy vibes, I definitely say you need to pick up This Ravenous Fate by Haley Dennings, because not only is she's a debut author, but she's a black debut author, so it's very important we support them. So check this one. And then I really feel like it wouldn't be a true recommendations video if I didn't talk about this book. So we have Babel by R.F. Kuang, and we're following the story of Robin Swift, and this is kind of like a dark academia book, and it has fantasy realism elements to it, magical realism elements, I guess that's really what you would say. But this book, oh my god, y'all, I gave this book 4 stars, but I still think about Robin Swift and his story to this day. He is this boy who is adopted by this white man. He's from Canton. He's like some part in Asia who is in proximity to whiteness, and basically all these people in the school that he's with are kind of in proximity to whiteness, and they are in the world are doing translations. The translations equal magic, and the better you do a translation, the better and stronger the magic is. And we're basically following this, but also we also follow the demise and the downfall of education and the powerfulness of education, and how translating these things that they are taking away the power of the originality from where these originated from to make it more coherent for, you know, the white people in power to understand. And basically it's like the white man taking away for those in marginalized communities, and you can really just see the juxtaposition again between the fiction and the reality. And oh my god, this book also takes place in Oxford as well, which I think is also another like prevalent fact, because Oxford is such a prestigious like university, not only in the Eastern Hemisphere but also in the Western Hemisphere as well. Everybody knows about Oxford University. But if you're looking for your first R.F. Kuang novel, I really suggest reading Babel, especially if you like the dark academia vibes. I will say it took me a little bit to get into the story, not because the story wasn't good, but just because there's so much background and information. So it does start off slow, but once you get into everything and you start understanding everything, how the way Miss Kuang builds it up, chef's kiss. I will never stop thinking about Babel and Mr. Robin Swift. Okay, I just can't, and I will not ever stop thinking of it. This next book is actually a recent read. It was actually on my fall TBR, and I want to say thank you for my TikTok girlies for putting me on. Okay, for y'all who show up on my TikTok lives, thank you, especially you Kylie if you're watching, because you told me I was gonna love this book. And ma'am, were you right? We're gonna talk about Serpent in the Wings of Night by Carissa Bravin. This is the first book in the book of the Nightborn duet, but it's also part of the Crowns of Naxia series as well. I give this book 4 stars, and it's a fantasy romance. We're following the story of Araya and Rain, and they're both competing in the Kajari, where there's only one winner, and once you win, you get to grant any wish that you want. But also at the same time that they're in the Kajari, there is a war happening against the Nightborn. I almost said Nightbane. The Nightborn vampires, and we're trying to figure out why everything happens the way it does. Let me tell you, I've never read a fantasy romance book where it's like it eats. Like like, not like in a bad way, like other books that I read aren't good, but in a way that the balance in this book between the fantasy and the romance ate down. And the found family trope that we have in this book as well was absolutely phenomenal. I ate this book up from beginning to end. I enjoyed it so much. And that last chapter, those last couple of pages, that last sentence, that last little information we got broke my heart. And then I was doing immersive reading, so I was listening to the audiobook, and all I hear is say, and then it's saying of the serpent of the wings of night. And I was literally jaw on the floor flabbergasted, because I was like, you're lying. You're lying. So if you're looking for a good fantasy romance that is going to be about vampires and humans, pick up the Serpent of the Wings of Night. I don't know if y'all peep, but I've been on my vampire thing in 2024. I read so many vampire books, but I digress. But I would say you need to read this. This is my first Carissa Broadbent book, and I absolutely fell in love with her writing. It was so easy. Plot placing, all that. It's fantastic. Phenomenal. And then it wouldn't be a recommendation video if I didn't talk about my favorite YA fantasy series. So let's talk about it. This is Light Lark by Miss Alex Astor. This was originally supposed to be a trilogy, but now this book is picked up to be a 5-book series. But Light Lark follows the story of Isla Crown, and basically they have this centennial where all 6 rulers have to come and fight not fight necessarily, but they're supposed to break the prophecy and figure out and break the curse for Light Lark, and we're following that story. But as we get more into that story, there's a lot more to Light Lark and Isla than what seemed to be in the beginning, if that makes sense, without giving it away. And then we follow up that story with not Sky Shade, that's the 3rd book, Nightbane. Oh my god, I'm mixing everything up. Nightbane, which is the 2nd book, which I also gave 5 stars to. Gave this book 5 stars. And then we have Sky Shade, which is the 3rd book, which I gave 4 stars to. But overall, the whole series, the book, the pacing, and the plot is a very fast pace. It's very easy to get into. I felt like Light Lark had a really good original premise, and I thought it was really, really, really good. I thought everything about this book immediately sucked me in from beginning to end, and like I ate this book up. Like I could not put this book down. I was truly invested in Isla and Light Lark and the Centennial and the other rulers, and that basically everything about this book. I just could not put her down. There was nothing wrong this book can do. I just thought it was a good YA fantasy. And I was so excited to see what Alex Astor has more to offer. But yeah, it's crazy. It literally says lie, cheat, and betray. So I don't know. Those 3 adjectives right there, lie, cheat, and betray, should tell you everything you need to know about this series. And last but not least, because I didn't want this video to be too long, because y'all know I'm a certified book yapper, I want to talk about probably my best dark romance series or that I read this year. So this year I had the opportunity to go to my first book signing and meet Miss Nikki St. Croix. So let's talk about her books, the Lost Boys series, which is a Peter Pan and Wendy retelling. This is a dark romance, so suitable for ages 18 and above. And I'm not saying she's on the lighter side. She's like definitely on the heavier side of dark romance. But oh my god, let me tell y'all, I love this whole freaking series about the Lost Boys. They're so freaking phenomenal. They're so funny. Do you know the saying by Drake, I'm here for a good time, not a long time? That's exactly how I feel about this series. If you want a series that you're going to be laughing and kiki and giggling about every little silly thing, this is the series to do it for you. Not only are the characters are so funny, the male characters are so broody, and they're graveling over Miss Wendy in this book, and I'm just like, y'all, I just could not get enough. Like, the side characters eat, the magic system in this book eats, the plot eats, the pacing of these books eat. None of these books are over 250 pages, so you can definitely read this whole series in a span of 1 to 2 days, like I basically did. I was reading two of these books a day, okay? When I said ate this series up, I really ate this series up, okay? And there's this one part where our FMC gets tied up by vines. And if you read this series, if you know, you know what I was talking about. And that's all like I could really tell you. Like, let me just tell you, I'm going to read you this very first thing on this book. and you're gonna think like, oh my god, that's crazy. But the first book is The Never King, and this is literally the note on the back. The Never King is a dark retelling of Peter and Wendy, and if you like your enemies to lover romance with hot, ruthless, morally gray love interest, you enjoy The Never King and The Lost Boys. You can expect hate kissing, fighting, bickering, and touch her and I kill you vibes. While The Never King is inspired by Peter and Wendy, it is for 18 plus readers only. All characters are over 18. So I feel like that tells you everything you need to know. So if you're looking for a good time and you just want to like turn your brain off, definitely pick up the Lost Boys series by Nikki Singh. Alrighty guys, we have made it to the end of the video of every book that I will recommend you guys to read. I tried to give a variety, but also keep the list very concise because Lordy, there's so many books that I enjoy, and right now at the time that I'm filming this, I currently have read 102 books this year. So obviously there was a lot to choose from, but these are books that I really feel like have like altered my brain chemistry in some kind of way, whether it's like the plot, whether it's the pacing, or I found a new author, or if I can make a connection between real life and fiction. I just really wanted to make sure I had a really good concise list from like fantasy, romance, and yada yada yada, and whatever kind of genres else there is. But I feel like at this point I'm yapping. But if you guys have made it this far to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching day 1 of Vlogmas. Hopefully I will see you tomorrow for day 2. Until then, y'all be safe and I love you all. Mwah.